What's up guys, Axis here, back with another tutorial, and today I'm going to be showing you how to procedurally generate textures, well not really generate, but create textures for height maps inside Octane. This is going to be basically just using a lot of the dirt texture, the dirt shader inside Octane, and I'm going to be using some of the height maps from my landscape kit, which is currently 50% off if you want to go and check it out. It's down from £12 to £6, so you know, you can check that if you want. But yeah, we've got some coastal erosion up here. Looks really nice. I really like this scene, and it's actually part of a client project. But that's basically how I found out you were able to do this, because before I didn't really try it. I didn't think it was possible because I thought it worked off meshes, but it turns out you can even do it on height maps and displacement maps, which is really handy. So as you can see, this is just the scene. And you know, there's no mesh, it's a completely flat plane here, and yeah, it's just working from that. So I'm going to create a new composition and add a plane, and then create a shader, and I'm going to then we could create two materials, make them all fancy, and then put them in a mixed shader. And if you've got a newer version of Octane, you can use the displacement that you can add to mixed materials now. I mean, I don't know how old of an update that was. I don't know if it was in version 2, but if you don't have version 3, then you might not be able to use that feature anyway. So I guess we're making the tutorial more universal in that way. Okay, so I'm gonna go and change the shaders to 4K, because 4K is what most of my displacements are. Some of them are 8K, but I don't often see a need to make them 8K. It's just double the export time for not much of a difference, well, visually, unless you're doing macro shots. And what's great about using displacement maps rather than OBJs or just random landscapes is that if you have a really low VRAM card, you know, maybe like a 780 Ti, which is still a really good card for Octane because of all the CUDA cores it has, you can use displacement maps, and you could use out of core textures if you wanted. It will be slower because it's, you know, it's not, I can't remember which one's dynamic or static, but one of them's faster and one of them's in a graphics card and one of them's just normal RAM. So yeah, I do enable it, but I shouldn't have to. I'm just using it just in case. I'm going to put it on path tracing, and then I'm going to go and grab a landscape kit height map. So just going to select a random one. I think pink neon might be quite nice for this effect. This was one of my everydays. And I'm going to bring in a Octane daylight, which is a really quick way to make a scene look very nice. Kind of a cheat. There we go. Just rotate it like that on the Y. Yeah, it'll be Y. And from there, we can increase the amount that it's displaced by. This is a really noisy material. As you can see though, when we zoom in, it looks like some kind of pixelated mess. So what we need to do is we need to bump up level of detail. Before I do this though, I'm going to save it because, you know, displacements don't seem to lend well when they are bumped up to very high resolutions. I get a lot of crashes, so if I have one during this video, you know, this is just a little heads up. I can't remember or refresh the scene, but changing the C4D shader doesn't make that much of a difference compared to changing the level of detail on the actual shader itself, but it does increase quality. So yeah, now what we can do is if we go and create a dirt shader, then enclose that inside a color correction node, which will then put it inside the texture. We can also add a brightness, which is pretty good. I can't remember, I think I used a mixed material for this just to create the difference, but you can do this inside a mixed material as well. apart from this color correction node, will be in the amount section. So I think how I'm going to do this, I'm going to put this in a mix material, mix, and copy, paste. And just for the start, we can add some RGB spectrums for both of these. We could add a texture, but that won't be procedural, so I'm not going to. And we can add some noise as well. Right, it's already got it. I think I'm going to do a kind of grey color to signify. There we go, already have it. To signify the rock. Obviously, the rock will be on the top. But the problem is that I think it looks a lot better when a highlight color is on top. I mean, which looks a lot more unrealistic, but I think it looks better. So I mean, it's just whatever you're going for. If you're going for a realistic look, then obviously you want the rock to be on top. Because if you think about you know, something snowing, you know, snowing onto a mountain, the snow will be on top of the mountain. And then there'll be more rock around the sides. So in fact, yeah, that is pretty realistic then. Obviously, there isn't snow. I mean, if you have red snow, you should probably leave wherever you are. I'm kind of stuck between using inverted and non-inverted, because inverted really creates more highlights, but I really like the look of not inverted. So I'm going to leave it like that. And from here you can just mess around with the parameters. I often turn up details and tolerance quite a bit, because it gives it quite a different look. And you can add little details as the parameter would signify to the object, and it makes a really cool look. And then from here, for the brightness, what you can do is you can add something like an image texture. And again, this would make it procedural, but instead we could add a noise. Bump up the contrast, bump down the gamma, bump down, and this can kind of turn. I guess it kind of turns down the opacity of the rock, which is a nice kind of touch. I want to add a bit more gamma. I don't actually. So as you can see, we turn this down, it just goes back to normal, but I'm going to turn up the contrast and then turn up the gamma, and then we have little splotches. So we'll have little splotches like down here. I don't know if I can zoom in on it properly. I'll change it again. But as you can see, you could even do an animated texture, and this would be a really cool look, I think, for a project. I mean, I don't really know how to implement it, but someone out there with better knowledge than me could probably figure something out. And yeah, I'm just going to mess around with some parameters until I get something I like. Probably going to mess around with the sunset as well. This parameter is just kind of like, it's kind of like a fog, but it's not. Don't really know how to explain it. It just kind of mutes the sun a bit. So it's basically like having, you know, clouds in front of the sun, I guess. Or fog. And the sun size, you won't be able to see this very well, but increasing the sun size will create softer shadows. Decreasing it will create very hard shadows, as you can see down here. If we look, I'm circling with the mouse, pointed at it on my screen, even though you can't see me. Bit of an idiot. If I increase this and wait for it to process, there's no line there now. It's a really smooth shadow, and I often lean towards the kind of harder shadows because I think they look nicer in a lot of circumstances, especially landscapes. So I want to create less rock, and I also want to add kind of a more rock-like texture to this. Maybe a grey, like this. Looks really nasty though. I might add a noise just to switch things up a little bit. Maybe scale it down a little bit. This could kind of create a little bit of a rocky texture, I guess. But obviously we need it to be slightly, them to be slightly closer in color. Don't know why it won't go. A better way of doing this would be to create another mixed texture and then create pretty much the same color, and then add a purlin noise. I think I'm going to stick with purlin, but that's kind of what I'm going for. I just don't like creating like a sea of mixed textures, but sometimes that's just what you have to do. So we add a RGB, copy, and paste. Oh god. Well, I'll try and create pretty much the same texture. And then I'm going to add a noise to this. We might not be able to tell the difference, so I'm going to create a bigger difference, and then we can gradually bring this down. Again, I'm going to decrease the size of this. It kind of looks like a camel. Turn down the contrast a little bit. Sorry if I'm stalling a lot, I'm just trying to focus, and I can't talk and focus, sadly. So, it's looking nice. It's a lot more merged together, which is what I wanted. But I don't want the contrast that high. Also, maybe want the colors to be a bit darker. So I might just put this into color correction, and then maybe turn up the gamma. So that's kind of rocky, but it's still not perfect. Could possibly try a turbulence. That's kind of not rocky at all, but it looks cool. I could probably mess around with this for days, but gotta get this done sometime. You know, we're reaching 15 minutes almost. Yeah, 13 minutes now. Okay, well, I'm probably just gonna wrap this up. You kind of get the idea of what I'm going for. I want to create a more muted red though. Not that muted. Maybe I want it to be darker. A deeper, darker red. Or something like that. It's pretty nice, but I do want to mess with the dirt. Oh, I like that. So that's really nice. Oh, that's a really nice effect actually. I might mess around with this a little bit more. Oh, and then if you increase it completely, the red mixes with the rock, and it kind of looks like, maybe Marsy. I'm not really sure. Obviously, Mars doesn't have this rough of a terrain, but I really like that effect. That is really cool. So maybe turning up the tolerance. Oh, wait. Oh, I mean, this is great. I didn't expect anything to turn out this nice. Okay, so that'll pretty much wrap it up. I really like that. I might do something else with this, because I really like the little splotches. I like how the rocks are singled out. I like how these peaks are kind of like a red mixed with a grey, and then we have the kind of variation with the turbulence as well. It's just a really, really nice combo. I love this. Obviously, to create a bit more realism, we might completely just miss out doing something like aperture, because if you're this far away and showing this much of a landscape, if you have this high of a, or this low of an f-stop, you're gonna have like a £3 billion camera or something, which nobody has. And also, it's just, it kind of makes it look like a toy model, I guess. You just wouldn't have this level of DOF at all. You'd have a little bit maybe, but even then I just normally leave it on 0. For the bloom, I like to turn up bloom for landscapes, but I don't like to go overboard. Something like this can make it look like there's some fog. If you've got Octane 3, you can also mess around with the fog included. Make sure you save before messing around with this, because if you bring down the thickness too low, you will absolutely destroy your machine. So I'm not going to be messing around with fog, but that's a parameter you can touch as well. And for the camera, I'll be turning down hot pixel removal to something like 7.7 or 0.6, just to get rid of unnecessary noise. It's not going to, bringing the hot pixel removal down to 0.7 is fine. You won't have many issues with blurring at this level. But yeah, this is a really, really cool effect, and I'd be wanting to maybe add a bit of gloss. That's a really, really nice gloss right there. Possibly move the roughness up as well. Doesn't look very realistic, that's for sure. But what kind of terrain is this? Like, what terrain does look like this? I think I prefer the. I really don't know. I'm kind of stuck between both, so I'll kind of do a best of both. I'll do like an on one. That's way too much. But like a 1.05. That's a little bit of gloss, but it's just just a kind of perfect amount of gloss, I guess. And then for the imager, remove vignetting. Don't like vignetting unless you're doing post-production. And in my last tutorial I said I like the neutral response. For this I don't like it at all. It just makes it completely too blue. I feel like this is like a realistic white balance. And I could mess around with the response, but I think a lot of these effects could just be achieved by some tweaking in NickFX or on some of the first party plugins in Photoshop, for example. So that's pretty much it. Other than that, all we have to do now is render this out. Keep in mind that both of these parameters for diffuse and specular don't have to be very high at all, because we don't have a big glass material. We don't really have any like diffuse materials don't need to be this high ammo, so maybe 5 to 8 maximum. So I'll probably first scene like this just do 8.8, and then we'll do a little render time test, just putting in my settings. So this is a 2000 by 2000 composition, and it takes 4 hours to render, so that's quite a long time, but we do have quite an excessive amount of samples. So if I put it down to something like 5000, which is normally what I'd use for a still, then we should be fine. Again, I would probably mess around with the roughness a bit, because you can see the light isn't catching on that and it's not making it look very nice. So just for a convenience sake, I'm going to put it back to diffuse. But I really like this texture. You guys should mess around with this, definitely. It's a really cool feature, and also So that's a really cool landscape. So if you guys want to go and check out that landscape kit, 50% off. If I bring it up here, yeah, we've got a ton of different landscapes. I might make a V2 because I'm making a lot of landscapes still. And you know, a lot of these don't have textures, apart from a few of them, like for example the grasslands one. That's got a really nice texture, as you can see. Got some interesting images in here. Sadly these do not come with the pack. I mean, you can maybe get a special edition, but this is the landscape, like the texture that I made, and you could probably do something pretty close to this, as you can see, you know, with Cinema 4D and Octane, and obviously it's a lot more customizable inside Cinema. So yeah, I'm gonna stop rambling now, let you get on with your day. Please show me some results of this on Twitter. Just link me. I really want to see what you guys can do with this, because I think it's an awesome effect, and I'm glad I figured it out, you know, just by experimenting. So you guys should experiment too, and just get creating. I'll see you guys in the next video. If this helped, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this, and leave a comment on what I should do next. See you in the next video.